Welcome back to Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast for Stage 8 of the Tour de France from the Dole to Lausanne. They go into Switzerland today, 186k stage. I thought it was a nailed-on breakaway stage, sort of rolling medium mountains with not too difficult to finish. It's like a 5k, 4.5% stepped finish with the first kilometre and a half at about 6.5%. Then there's flat and a false flat downhill, then another 1 kilometre, 8% punch before it levels off for a 500-meter false flat uphill finish. Like the sort of break that went, you'd expect Morich, Sturven, Baggioli, Honore, these type of riders to get in it. If it went to a finish, Wout van Aert, Pidcock, Matthews, punchers from the bunch, Vlasov as well. The question would be, what would Jumbo do today? The intermediate sprint was about, let me do some quick maths, 9Ks after a 6.5K, 4% climb. So would Jumbo Visma pace the climb really hard to try and drop Jakobsen and get some good intermediate sprint point gains? So yeah, lots of interesting things on this stage. And I was wrong, Benji, because when the break was forming, it looked like Bike Exchange, UAE, and Jumbo were not letting more than 3 or 4 guys go at a time.
Yes, certainly. And there's a few things that happened at the start of the stage. We saw when the break was forming, the typical rouleur breakaways tried to get away initially, and it really came down to a crash that caused the final breakaway getting away. And it was a crash that involved Pogacar. So he looked to be all right after that crash. Let's be honest about it. I think something happened where someone had to brake near the front. I think it was Kevin Vermarke that caused someone to have to brake. And as a consequence, basically, people fell over him. Quintana fell pretty hard on the right of the road. And eventually, Pogacar had an avoidable crash, in my opinion, near the back of the group. And that was actually the green light for a breakaway that launched a tiny bit earlier, a 3-man breakaway to actually get away. And that included the likes of Fred Wright from Bahrain, Mattia Cataneo as well in that breakaway. And to be honest, like those two riders alone are pretty damn strong riders in the breakaway when it comes to keeping tempo. Frédéric Frison also joining that. So a 3-man breakaway. And like you said, it was when the riders from the crash, well, basically the team of Ineos and also the team of Jumbo were at the front of the peloton when the crash happened. And Ineos basically put a block on it because Thomas was also involved. And when that happens, you know that Jumbo is in a position of like, okay, do we pace? Because Thomas and Pogacar are down. But I don't think they could because they'd have the reputation of, the internet will be all over them for doing that. But they basically stop for a bit. The break goes out to 1 minute 30 or something, roughly, before we see UAE coming up to the front of the peloton again, and then a complete block is put on the peloton. Like, is the crash a reason that a small breakaway went, or would it have been a small breakaway anyway?
I think it would have because the Quickstep just already had a guy in it, so they're not going to try with Honore and Baggioli. Trek are kind of bit poor, to be honest. Trek just not been great at this race, so they're another team. Bahrain are in there, so Morich won't try, and it's really EF that are missing. So and Court looks a bit ragged, so because he's been chasing KOM. So yeah, it's maybe it would have stopped there. Maybe they would have kept trying for a little bit. I'm not sure. Maybe they would have formed on the climb. The climb was much faster than I expected. It wasn't very difficult at all. But it would be a difficult day for Ben O'Connor on Age des Citroën. His teammate Bouchard was out of the race with COVID. Actually, the first rider to test positive for COVID in an ASO race in 3 years in the third season of COVID. Incredible statistic. And that was also followed by Vergaert Staker Langen out of the race, one of the rouleurs, along with Bjerg. Bjerg's still in the race, but Staker Langen was one of the 2 rouleurs that UAE have on the team. He's out of the race with COVID. So it was curious to me that with a 3-man break, with Jumbo Visma refusing, much to the annoyance of a lot of the peloton in the first week, when they had the yellow jersey, when they had the stage favourite, they refused to pace. Now UAE have the yellow jersey. They have one of their rouleurs out, and they have a finish with Sus Pogacar. And Wout, instead of trying to get in the break, has the team pace all day. So Roglic would not be getting the easy day that maybe he
Hmm.
would have hoped for. So I guess, yeah, that's what happened. So that's the inherent difficulty in balancing GC and the ambitions of going for green or for stages.
Nah,
So it's just
I
difficult.
I feel like I need to be a bit harsher on this. I feel like we've had Long Wheel. Long Wheel is behind us. A situation where Wout going into that three-man breakaway causes the peloton to chase that breakaway. If a larger breakaway went without Wout, that break likely wins that Long Wheel stage. Like, very likely wins the Long Wheel stage. And because Wout's in that breakaway, Pogacar is able to snatch a 10 seconds bonus at the finish line because that breakaway is being caught. As UAE probably wouldn't chase a breakaway of 7 with Laporte, the break that went earlier at that stage. And now on this stage, we get a breakaway of 3 that gets away. And in all honesty, when I saw that, I was like, I don't know, it's rather small. Some other teams might be interested in controlling it, but if Jumbo does not control it, this break might actually make it because it was solely Bike Exchange carrying then. Perhaps a Cosnefroid with Ajazer might have actually popped in towards the end, but I feel like Jumbo pacing today was basically saying that, okay, we are willing to exchange another 4 seconds because I saw Pogacar getting a top 3 on the stage if this went to a sprint from the peloton. 100%. And if they start chasing in the peloton, they basically say we're willing to give bonus seconds to Pogacar over Jonas in exchange for a stage win with Wout. And I'm not sure I'm okay with that after what happened in Longwy. And that's my take.
If I speak, I'll be in big trouble. Everyone knows my view on it. Stages are for exposure. Mayo Jones fly forever, and you got to ask yourself why you're here. But anyway, they paced for the break. It was actually a pretty sleepy stage compared to the others. There really wasn't too much that happened in the middle of the stage. Wout van Aert took the maximum IS points at the intermediate sprint from the group. Jakobsen did contest it. They didn't drop Jakobsen. Philipsen was back contesting it. Like, I don't know. I just don't know. Alpes and Phoenix, nothing makes sense over there in this Tour de France. But the men's Tour de France is now well underway, which means the Tour de France Femme avec Zwift is just around the corner, starting on the last stage of the men's Tour de France. That afternoon, the women's race kicks off with a short sprint stage on the Champs-Elysees. Watch out for Lorena Wiebes on that, or Vos and co. All the big stars will be there. And Zwift is celebrating with a Watch the Fam mission that has kicked off, complete up to 8 Watch the Fam events on Zwift for your chance to unlock in-game kit, but also unlock Tour de France Femme avec Zwift leaders jerseys signed by their eventual winner. Head to Zwift.com to find out more or to start your free 7-day trial if you haven't signed up already. So, Nathan Van Hooydonk was on the front today with Christopher Juhl Jensen. I think for Bike Exchange, pacing a lot. For Bike Exchange, I get it. Like, of course, Matthews is not the favorite against Wout van Aert. But they have no other reason for being here. And also, if he comes second, he gets 50 UCI points. Like,
Yeah.
that's actually, I support it. Obviously, I'd like to get Matthews in the break with Durbridge. I think gives him a much better chance of winning.
Yeah.
But he doesn't go in breaks. We saw that in the Vuelta last year, and so this is just rinse and repeat strategy from them. Like, if you don't learn once or twice or 3 times, don't expect them to learn the 5th time. But yeah, it was going to the finish, Benji. I was praying in the narrow run-in to Lausanne in the street that everyone would keep it upright. I didn't see any crashes today. That was really good to see. And Jumbo take it off the front. Fred Wright makes it the last out of the breakaway out of Catania and Frison, although Catania, I think, got combativity. Wright looking good, Ruler for Bahrain victorious, but he's reeled in. Ineos for pacing. I thought they'd almost try and set up a train for Pidcock today, Benji.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this stage really suits him.
Yeah.
But his positioning, I don't know. They seem to be, to me, Ineos, Benji, Yates, Martinez, Thomas, Pidcock, all riding separately, and that's for a lot of riders. Like,
Yeah.
none of them are working for each other, right?
I feel like Pidcock has been more the domestique this
True,
race. I feel like
that's
on the
true.
cobbles that was the case. I swear I saw on some other stage where he played an essential role at keeping someone together or to the front. And I think, I'm not 100% sure, but on Planche Belfi, he finished in the group of Martinez, which suggested to me that he helped Martinez to get as close as possible. But I could be wrong on that. I'm not 100% sure. We didn't see footage of that group. But I feel like Pitcock's the more domestique type. I feel like I'm surprised that Yates is still that close. Is that me?
I think Planche Belfi, I thought he'd do better.
Hmm.
Martinez, I think, should fold into a domestique role like Giro 2021 style. It doesn't seem to be working out for him. I think they have to pick two guys and they can't keep protecting three. I think it's too many. And yeah, I think they have to burn Martinez or maybe they're just waiting for the Alps. I'm not particularly sure. Anyway, we get onto the climb. Pogacar moves up himself at the start. He's like, his team's nowhere to be seen, moves up. Bora pacing for Vlasov, who obviously they had confidence in. So, like, he can't be sick, Benji. I know Vlasov didn't win, but he can't be sick if they're pacing for him or injured. That wouldn't make sense. I think it was Großschartner or Conrad. No, it was Conrad, not Großschartner, because Großschartner's Austrian champ, pacing on the front and just pulling the whole of the first climb. Doesn't really drop anyone except domestiques. This is not a selective finish, really. It's just a hardish finish uphill. And then they get onto the flatter section. McNulty comes from deep. This is what we always see with McNulty, Benji. This is the problem with
Yeah.
UA2. McNulty got good watts,
Hmm.
but when it's time for him to start pulling, Micah and Pogacar are looking around like, "Where's Brandon?" Because he can't maintain position, so they have to wait, and so he has to move up, and then he starts pacing, and then for the bigger boys, they like get a little bit of a rest, and they get to sit on the wheel, and yeah, he starts pacing. I didn't. Was there any point where you were like, "Ooh, Wout looks like they could put pressure on Wout"? I just saw no world where Micah and McNulty could actually put pressure on Wout on this parcours because he dropped the whole Tour de France peloton on a 1K 7% climb in Calais.
I think so as well. Like, throughout the entire climb, when I looked at Wout van Aert, he was so damn comfortable. There was one scenario where I was like, okay, something's going on here. He has to react or do something. Is that even a good idea? Let's talk about it now. So we see that McNulty's in second position behind Micah. On that climb, Micah's actually pacing, McNulty in second wheel, and McNulty's actually not able to follow Micah's wheel and drops from in between Micah and Pogacar. So Pogacar jumps to Micah's wheel to close the gap because McNulty is falling through. And we see that I think Jonas was in his wheel and another rider. I can't place which rider was. Perhaps Viermos could be, or someone else,
Yeah, it was him.
someone
It
in
was
the
him.
peloton. Okay. And a group of four kind of becomes forming at the front because a tiny gap opens up behind the fourth rider. Wout van Aert is not in fifth position, I think sixth or seventh position. So Wout has to come past two riders and close the gap to the front. And I think that was the moment where I was like, okay, he can close this comfortably. He's going to be able to hold on towards the end of this thing. But what's your take on Wout van Aert closing that?
Well, I think Wout sitting on Jonas' wheel,
Mm-hmm.
I guess, was messing up his sprint a little bit because where if Jonas is on Pog's wheel when Pog kicks, we know he can't hold his wheel, and so Wout's going to have to close that gap. But I think he was also maybe trying to be like, well, I want to protect Jonas' back wheel, and so Jonas doesn't get shuffled back and lose time. And I think Poggy was mainly just trying to get bonus seconds today. I think he knows if he doesn't get boxed, there's not three guys faster than him. There's one for sure. There might be two, but there's not three faster than him if he doesn't get boxed in. As we saw in the sprint the other day in this sort of finish, he's faster than Pidcock, Bettiol, Krohn type guys, and Vlasov. And so we basically see Micah pulling. He's dying. He's not dropping anybody. It's just the slowest lead out ever, and we're just waiting to see who will counterattack. And I almost thought the philosopher Guillaume Martin was going to make a move, but he didn't. He did that sort of thing in Paris stage to Charouble maybe in 2021, but he didn't. And we see an Ash Desert rider move up. Wout gets boxed a little bit. I'm like, oh no, he's not going to be able to extricate himself. He has enough time. Bling opens up too early. Pogacar on his wheel. Wout comes from Pogacar's wheel and wins the stage comfortably with Matthew second, which is a nice 50-point haul. Of course, he wants the stage, but comes second. This is exactly as we expected. Pogacar third, Krohn fourth, Bettiol fifth, Vlasov sixth, Benjamin Thomas seventh, Jonas eighth, Jungels ninth. So I think Jungels obviously should be freed. He can win a break somewhere. Pidcock 10th. Roglic finishes in the group. I'm trying to look. Menkes lost 7 seconds, actually. Uran loses more time. And I can't really see any other GC contenders having any issues. Philipsen loses a minute 11. I think yeah, that's his
At
green
least,
ambitions gone.
yes, but at least they didn't pace for him today, compared
I
to
thought they were
Longwy, where
going
they
to.
did pace. They did like keep him towards a friend at the end, find the pool doing work and so forth. But I find that a thing that you must do. You must try to at least do something on a stage. At least they didn't spend the entire stage pacing for it. But now that we've got the outcome of the stage, what's your take on, like, yeah, we said it earlier, like, Wout van Aert gains 50 points for green, which is huge. Like, let's be honest about it. He's now 200,
264.
guess 264. Oh my
Yeah.
god, that's significant.
Yeah.
And that means that within a day or three, he might be near the amount that he needs to secure green, which is insane. And it's promising for Jumbo in
Oh, no, he's
the
already won
second
green.
part of this.
It's impossible to
Has he?
lose green. Impossible, like mathematically. He has to DNF. Yeah, because
So, yeah.
there's 12 intermediate sprints left. If he takes 10th place or whatever in all of them, he'll be on like 370 points or something, and Jakobsen's 115 points behind. It's impossible. He's already won green.
But going back to my previous argument at the start of today's stage, like the 4 seconds versus the stage win, does the fact that Wout gets so secure in the green jersey counter that point, where
No,
his help on stages where he might have gone for intermediate sprints in the future, might that take back 4 seconds indirectly in the future?
he'll still have to go for intermediate sprints.
Mm-hmm.
Whether he has to go in the breakaway on the Carcassonne stage, maybe those sort of stages. Have we had the Saint Etienne stage yet? No, I don't think so. Those sort of stages, yeah, maybe he'll be back. But yeah, listen, I understand that the way I look at cycling and this stage is probably not very popular. And for the Belgian public and the Jumbo sponsors, it makes absolute sense what happened today. And it was a great outcome. But I just frankly don't care about stage wins. And all I see is Tadej Pogacar extending his lead by 10% over Jonas Vingegaard, who went toe to toe with him yesterday. And if this was Ineos or Peak Sky and they had Kwiatkowski, we know how it plays out. They're not going to pace for Kwiatkowski to win a stage so that Froome or Thomas or Bernal or Wiggins would lose time. They're not going to do it because the Tour de France, okay, it was won by 5 minutes last year. It's a lot closer this year. And we got the Calais stage, fine. Wow, didn't wait, whatever. 50-50, they got caught anyway, fine. Longwy, I've already said my piece on that. Cost Jonas time and Roglic and energy. And today you lose another 4 seconds. So you can't say that the green fight and Wout hasn't affected GC. It's probably cost Jonas like 30 seconds. At worst, 15 at best.
I'd say at least 14 is what I'm currently at. Longwy plus this stage. Like, I don't
Yeah,
know
not
what.
including Calais.
Calais?
Not
As in,
including Calais, it's about 14. If you say they would have been caught, you can't include Calais because it's a hypothetical that Jonas would have taken time.
exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. True, true, true. Yeah. I was confused for
So
a second.
but yeah, I'm a negative person, but I'm not. It's not true. I'm just thinking about GC. I just think about GC, and I probably underestimating the importance. If you're not a robot and you're a human, the Jumbo Visma bus going to be and team going to be really happy today. A lot of morale. They won a stage. Like Wout's going to be happy. That's the human difference, and you could say that grossly outweighs a mere 4 seconds. If Wout's more motivated to help Jonas and free to help Jonas in the rest of the race, that counts much more than 4 seconds. So that's the counter argument. I get it. Yeah. What do you think, Benji?
I want to ask the people, what do you think about it? Drop it in the comments. Like, lots of time we give our opinions on stuff, and this is the kind of topic where I want to hear your opinion of, because like some people might actually like to see Wout van Aert win more than these 4 seconds, because one could say, oh, these 4 seconds won't make the difference, but I'm mainly talking about these multiple stages now gaining Pogacar seconds over Jonas, and I really care about seeing your takes. Drop it on Twitter at Lanterne Rouge CP on Twitter, or in the comment sections of YouTube, and I'll be reading it tonight.
Because you got to from my perspective, Jonas, it's pretty much guaranteed he drops Pogacar on the Grenon stage or Alpe d'Huez stage. I think the question is not if he drops him, it's does he take 30 or 40 or a minute? And so this is why those seconds matter, because I think, yeah, he will drop him there, but he's not going to put 3 minutes into him. That's the thing. Anyway, tomorrow's stage is another interesting one, and I'm not sure how many green jersey points are on offer, but it's 193 k's long. The intermediate sprint is after a sort of extended climb, but pretty shallow gradients, 56 k's in. Probably the breakaway's already gone by then. And then there's one soft climb, 13 k's 4%. Then the Col de la Croix, 8k 7.5%. Descent, about a 15k flat valley. And the longest climb of the race to date on stage 9 before the first proper rest day on Monday, the Pas de Morgin fake news climb. This leaves from the UCI headquarters in Aigle, which I had the misfortune of visiting during the Dauphin. Nah, it's not true. I'm being such a negative fuck this pod. It was actually quite nice, the headquarters in Aigle. Like, in other circumstances, I would have liked to have visited. I was just really busy. So yeah,
You're that
that'll be.
guy with the "fuck the UCI" sign on
Yeah,
the right side of the
well,
building.
why am I being so negative? I gotta lighten up a little bit. It's the Tour de France, but yeah, at least from Aigle, it should be like cool. There'll be UCI and hopefully a lot of the riders who are on the UCI. I'm not sure what it's called, the academy or whatever. Like the riders who are from overseas who ride, stay in Aigle. That'll be cool. They'll get to watch the start of the Tour de France. So that starts there, then it goes back into France. And this 15.5k, 6.2% climb, it's like the Montegual stage. We referred to this in the Climbs of the Tour de France article from Nijaka. It levels off at the end, and then there's a descent for about 10 kilometers, maybe no less than 10 kilometers, 5 kilometers, and then a sort of 4k, 4.6% finish. What is this stage? This has to be break. I don't see any other option.
Don't you remember what we said about this stage, my man? Oh, stage 9 of this Tour de France. The Lutsenko stage, my friend.
Oh, yeah. He might be close in GC.
Oh, no.
He is. He's
I
on
don't know.
449. He's kind of been providing for GC.
If he gets in the break, 449, I'm saying if I'm UAE, it depends. It's still
No,
close to where you need to control it a bit.
not
You can't give him
really.
10 minutes,
You can
11?
give him 2. So you
Yeah,
can pace the break at
6.
7 minutes and then you'll bring it back at the
Yeah,
end. Yeah.
true. But
But
like
turns.
we're closing in towards the Alps. We've said 2 stages in a row now that the break will win, and 2 stages in a row, or 3 stages in a row, we said the break will win, and 3 stages in a row we had the peloton winning instead. Do you think there's an opportunity tomorrow that happens again, or is there just no way that it happens tomorrow?
I mean, I've been wrong on how active the peloton has been.
Hmm.
I'm not. I just keep thinking that they're going to take a day off and they're going to let the break go, and it's just not happening. Like teams are wanting to go from the group, and yeah, I'm not reading them very well. Well, at Blanche de Belfi, I read okay, but
Yeah,
I think I think this is Schachman and Kemner and Conrad and Gross-Schartner in the break. Has to be, right? Like, you
all
can't
of them.
chain them for Vlasov. 2 of the 4 will be in the break. Has to
Yeah,
be.
yeah, yeah. With Polit as the tugboat at the start.
Yeah, tug buddy.
But when it comes to this stage, I'm going to go all out. I'm going to say that there's no bloody way that the peloton wins this stage. It is non-existent, the chances. It's going to be a breakaway. I'm calling it, and it's probably not even that small of a chance that it is a breakaway. So I'm patting myself on the back a bit too much here for a stage that is a decent breakaway stage, in my opinion. But when it comes to riders that could go for it, we saw Godu crash overhead. He's still close on GC. Pinot is the kind of rider I'd write down for a stage like this, but he got hit in the face by a Musette
Yeah.
today. So let's talk about it. How does that happen?
Pino rode into the Trek Soigneuse hand. He got slapped in the face.
I feel like I overanalyzed the situation a bit. I saw a situation where Thibaut Pinot, he crashed earlier, he moves back up, and we see a track rider taking his hand to the right to try and take a Musette, but there's still a gap there, and he looks back and he sees Pinot moving up on his right behind, in between the Soigneur and himself. And it seems like the Trek Rider kind of says, okay, I won't take the Musette then. But as a consequence, the Soigneur is still standing there with his Musette. So I think it's just a very unlucky accident from all situations. Yeah, Pinot could have seen it. Yeah, the Soigneur could have seen Pinot coming. Yeah, the Trek Rider could have picked it up swiftly and made sure that it wasn't ahead of Pinot. But I don't think anyone's to blame here in this situation.
Yeah, I think it just seems like really unfortunate timing. Who I would like to see in the break: Carlos Verona, Matteo Jorgensen,
Not
uh,
happening.
Bob
Verona's
Jungels,
changed.
Louis Meintjes, Warren Barguil, Tom Stearns, uh, Caruso's too close, Mike Woods, Kemner, the Yoni Zagira, Ben O'Connor, but he's pretty banged up,
Yeah.
Morich, Latour, the Latour, Guerrero, Bonamour. I'm just picking people that can climb now. But there's a lot of riders that can win this stage. I really think if he's in decent condition, you have to let Verona try. And on the Mishev stage, if you're Movistar, I really don't see too much GC. I could be proven wrong, but I'm picking Yoni Zagira to win this.
I think that's a good call, though. It's not
It's
raining,
hot,
eh?
isn't it? It's hot,
So.
isn't it? No, I rescind it, Kemner. I rescind it. Kemner.
Kemna, I believe in Kemna. I think he might try again indeed. I also wanted to talk about Philipsen for a second, now that we've chosen this. We've seen him now sprint for an intermediate sprint 3 days ago. We saw him not sprint yesterday. And we saw him sprint again today for the intermediate sprint. At the end of the stage, you mentioned, okay, green's dead for him. Like, he also low-key killed his green ambitions himself, in my opinion, because of the inconsistency of sprinting for green points.
Well, yeah, because green isn't over until Wout's in Paris. So there is a reason to stay in second, as Michael Matthews showed when he won green. Like, you should stay in second. But he's 40 points behind, 47 points behind Fabio. All those points, I'm pretty sure, are just from avoiding intermediate sprints. I think if he'd contested all the intermediates, he'd be about equal with Fabio. So he's kind of sold his own green. I don't. Maybe he'll make up those points on Jakobsen. Maybe Jakobsen OTLs, but I think, yeah, probably he's thinking I need to get into second in case Wout gets expelled for littering or DNFs or crashes or whatever. But yeah, green, if Wout makes it to Paris, mathematically, assuming he contests all the intermediates that he should, it's over. He's won green.
Okay, I believe you. I agree that Wout van Aert has one green as long as he stays on the bike. It's with Wout van Aert, we don't often see him crash hard, except for that one time in the Tour de France where he had the proper serious accident. So I low-key trust him to be able to finish this race, but Jumbo's riding very stressfully, right? Like, they need to position themselves at the front end. He not only has to do it for himself at every sprint, at every intermediate sprint, but also for Roglic, for Primoz, the same person. So obviously for Primoz and for Roglic, and Jonas Vingegaard as well. I also want to talk about, once again, today, the end of the stage, last climb. Primoz Roglic is not well positioned on the final climb. You think that it's a different situation compared to the previous occasions where it's now he's in recovery and perhaps doesn't really try to stay at the front as much as, for example, a Cipressa or whatever, where he tried to be at the front but failed? Or do you think he's just failing at it?
Um, I think he knows he couldn't really contest the finish, and it was for Wow. I think
Hmm.
Roglic is just trying his best out there. He said yesterday at the finish, where he only lost 12 seconds, did like 6.4 watts per kilo for 20 minutes, including a very high last 4 minutes. He said, um, it feels like he's being stabbed with knives in the back every time he pedals. So I'm sure he was looking forward to a difficult stage today, rather than a big break going away. I think he's just trying to survive and staying out of the way. And yeah, but I agree. Even if that wasn't the case, he struggles to hold wheels. Jonas is holding the wheel fine. He was in good position. He just follows Pogacar. So, um, yeah, Vlasov, Benji, he looked better. I I think Bora are a pretty smart team. They're not going to shackle anybody in case Vlasov comes really good. And he's just going to have to claw his own way back into GC. And Ineos is the one that I really want to see what happens tomorrow. Which team of any would be the one to pace on Morjat tomorrow?
Oh, like I don't know if I see a team to pace. Like the only team that I could think of is Pogacar if his family's at the top of the climb again. But outside of that, I don't see Jumbo pace on this climb. Like unless they've got a master plan for tomorrow, I don't see that being the stage they can hit Pogacar on big time. When it comes to Ineos, I think if they pace, it's a fake pace, so the break would win.
Like on a Gual.
Um, what? Sorry.
On a Gual, they were the team that fake paced in
Exactly.
week one,
Perfect
2020.
example. Was that the stage Lutsenko won as well?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
They did like 5 watts per kilo, and Peloton was 35 deep. I think if the break is only at 2 minutes, Pog will ask for the stage win because he'll win the stage if the break doesn't win, because it will
Yep.
be a group of 10 to 15. He'll win the sprint on that 5K, 5% climb. So Pog will win the stage if the break is too tight. He will be like, let's go. Let me get some free bonus seconds. Anyway,
Does
so
he want to give the jersey away before we get to the proper
uh,
Alps?
I don't reckon. I don't reckon. That'd only be one stage, right? It'd only be Megève, and you
Hmm.
can give the jersey away on Megève anyway. I don't
Yeah,
think he
true.
really cares. He just if the stage wins there, he'll go for it. I think he cares more than giving or keeping the jersey.
Okay, I feel like he also hasn't had the real chance of giving it away as much, or perhaps he did. He had an opportunity to
What
give it away.
yesterday? You got a
Yeah, he
whole.
did.
That's why when people are like, Pogacar didn't want to win the stage. He was going to let
Oh,
Leonard Kemner win it. It was only because Jonas attacked. I was like, bruh, he had his whole team paced for
yeah,
5 hours. He
he wanted to
also
win.
then, when Micah finished his pool, started pacing so Kemner didn't keep his gap. He wanted to win the stage. Like, let's be very clear. And that might happen tomorrow. So again, it might not be easy break. It may never be an easy break. Might be a battle before that last rest day. On the last rest day, we will do a full Giro Rosa wrap up. GC will be finished then, and we'll do a full wrap up on that rest day. Stay tuned for that. We haven't forgotten. We just want to collate it all and make sure we've watched everything, because Benji and I, unfortunately, we're not just working on Tour de France stuff at the moment. We have some other things going on, and we don't want to just read the PCS results out to you. Being transparent, we'd rather go back and make sure we've watched every stage to at least be able to comment on it on the Monday rest day pod. So thanks for bearing with us on that front. Thanks as well for supporting the show, and we'll see you at the stage 9 recap tomorrow. Ciao.